Good day, brother. I've been with my woman for 6 years, almost seven actually. And I won't criticize you or make you feel guilty for feeling doubts about your relationship, because I certainly know how it feels to have all these thoughts. And also, you likely already judge yourself quite harshly for having these doubts about your relationship. I want to help you solve this because for me, these thoughts were mostly things like, how can I know that she is the right woman for me, that I should spend the rest of my life with? There are so many women out there. How can I know that it's her? And I think the most difficult one for me was, what if we have children together and then I realize that this isn't it? That broke me, to be honest. And I want to help you overcome this because you can already see that these doubts and these negative thoughts are secretly sabotaging your relationship, right? And you want to get clarity on whether you should actually end this relationship or whether you should stick with her and actually build something that lasts a lifetime. You can't do either if you don't have clarity. So let's get to that point. Because these doubts, these fears, they're not just hurting you, they're also hurting your woman. Whether you tell her about them or not, she feels them. And it holds her back from fully trusting you to be that rock for her. It hurts her because she can't lean into her feminine side. She can't just let herself fall into your guidance, into your leadership. And of course, you want that as well, right? You want to lead her. You want to be that rock for her, but you can't if you're always ambiguous and you never know whether you should stick with this relationship or leave it behind. And you know where that leads both of you. If you're always in that ambiguous place, you will either build a relationship that is not actually up to both of your standards, essentially. You'll build a relationship that you actually don't want. Or, secondly, you will impulsively end this relationship and then maybe regret it because, again, you never have that clarity. So, by the end of this video, I will have shared 3 life changing and brutally honest lessons with you that I wish I had learned earlier because they would have saved both me and my woman from a lot of suffering. I won't waste your time here. Let's jump right into lesson number 1 because for most guys, when their relationship goes downhill a bit and they're not fully satisfied and then they start doubting their relationship, they do the exact wrong thing because they take a back seat. They lean out of the relationship and kind of in the hopes of, well, not being as invested. And then if it should end or if they have to end it, not feeling as much pain, right? They want to protect themselves from pain, which is completely understandable. But here's the thing, you have 2 misconceptions, most likely. The first one is that if you feel doubts and if you have fears about this relationship not being the right one, you think that your woman also has these doubts and is probably already thinking about breaking up with you. That's misconception number 1. And the second one is that by leaning out of it a bit, by not being as invested into the relationship, you can save yourself some pain. The reason why this second one is a misconception is because this is actually the exact way to create the most pain. Because do you want your relationship to end? Because, man, guess what? This is the exact path that will lead to the relationship ending and you feeling the exact pain that you wanted to avoid in the first place. I'll give you an analogy on this so this actually sticks with you because you're not here to whatever hear some random guy speak and waste your time. You're here to actually learn and to actually implement these things into your life. So let's make sure that these things actually stick in your head. And by the way, if you're not taking notes, you're wasting both of our time. So take some notes here. So, this analogy. Imagine you are a pilot, right? And you're flying an airplane and you're in the middle of your flight, you're thousands of feet above the ground, and the engines go out. You can't do anything. You can't restart the engines, nothing's working. What is most people's immediate reaction? They pull back. But what happens when you pull back? Well, you become dead weight, and the airplane, including you and all the other people on board, falls out of the sky like a dead bird. So, what does an expert pilot do instead? Well, if he's in that situation, he leans the airplane forward. He leans the nose of the airplane down. And you're like, why the fuck would he do that? Well, simple, because he can then generate speed, then air flows around the wings of the airplane again, and then what happens is the airplane gets lift again, right? Because of how the aerodynamics of how you get the point. You know this stuff. You learned this in physics class in 3rd grade. You get the point. So, maybe not 3rd grade, but you get the point. So, then the pilot can simply go and have the plane glide again, and he can glide it to a safe destination where he can make a landing, right? Another example would be a startup founder. What do most startup founders do when their startup isn't going great? Well, they fire people to reduce overhead cost and to simply have a few more months of runway. What does a great startup founder do when his startup isn't going great, when he's not reaching his goals? He's hiring people. He leans into it to solve the problem as soon as possible, not to avoid the problem, but to solve the problem as soon as possible and get the startup off the ground ASAP. Do you get it now? When you're doubting your relationship, instead of pulling back and putting in less effort, you need to lean into it and give it everything you have. Because not only is that the only way to actually steer the relationship to security and fulfillment, it's also the only way of figuring out whether this relationship is the one you should be in, whether this is the woman that you should be with. Because if you put in all the effort and it doesn't work out, then you know that it wasn't supposed to work out. But if you don't put in all the effort, if you don't give it your all, and then it fails, then you will always continue asking yourself whether it could have worked out if you had put in more effort. And that regret, that feeling of simply regretting your actions, will eat you alive for years. So yes, this is risky because we all know, hey, if I get more invested into this relationship and then she breaks up with me, then it will hurt. Then it will, fucking hell, I can't talk. Then it will hurt. But if you don't put in the effort and then it fails, that feeling of regret is much worse than getting your heart broken. Much worse. Let me explain to you how one of my clients, Ramses from Belgium, did this so that you can do it too. Basically, Ramses had multiple relationships that failed basically in the same way. And he was kind of afraid of love in a way. He was afraid of committing to someone again because he was afraid of getting hurt again, right? And he didn't really know how to navigate that. He had all these fears and all these doubts. But then he met this one woman. And he said himself that this woman kind of encouraged him again, like not her directly, but through meeting her and through seeing how she was and what a kind human she was, she motivated him again to kind of jump over that wall that he had built for himself and actually take on that challenge. But then he ended up in the exact same insecure and doubtful place in this relationship, and he realized, this has maybe a little bit to do with how the relationship is going and with what kind of person I'm dating. Of course, it has something to do with that, but it mostly has to do with me. And that's when he came to me and asked me for my help. And through us working together, he actually got to a place where, well, he overcame that. And he actually told me this, and I'll read this out for you because this is powerful. He basically said, thanks to Benny's advice and my work of implementing this advice to my situation, I now live together with the woman I was afraid of losing. I think that's so powerful. That's why I wanted to read you this in his exact words. He lives together with the woman that he was afraid of losing because he was able to overcome those doubts and put in all the effort that he actually wanted to put in, because that's the main lesson that he learned. The main lesson he learned was, even in these past relationships, I held back because I was afraid of getting hurt if I invested too much. But there isn't something like investing too much. If you give something, whether it's a relationship, a business idea, an athletic goal, if you give it your all and then you don't reach the goal that you have still given it your all and you will be proud of that. And yes, it might hurt to not run the marathon time that you set, to not reach the business goal you've set for yourself, whatever it might be. Of course, relationships, same thing. But again, the regret of not putting in all the time, all the effort, and then inevitably failing, that hurts much more, man. And I'm speaking from experience here. By the way, Ramses, if you're watching this, sending love your way, man. You're a great guy. And anyway, if you are someone who wants to also maybe get my help and is considering it, right, mentorship, all that stuff, then there is a video that I made for you. That's the first link in the description, where I explain exactly how I work with guys and what kind of results I can help them get and all that stuff, right? And you can also apply for the mentorship directly on that page by clicking that big orange button that's over there. And I will then read your application and reach out to you if you're someone I'd like to work with. And then we will set up a free call and simply get to know each other and figure out whether this is for you so that you can make an empowered decision to do this or to not do this. No strings attached, of course, just send in an application if you want to, and maybe we'll speak soon. But back to the point, let me round this lesson number 1 off for you completely so this really sticks with you. I want you to imagine yourself in this situation where you put in all the effort and then the relationship failed. I really want you to feel this for a second. How would you feel? Of course, you would feel a bit of pain, right? You're still heartbroken. Now I want you to really imagine this. Like, actually think what would happen. How would you feel if you don't put in all the effort and then it fails? It would be this cruel sense of regret, of uncertainty, of being like, man, you're such a dumbass. Why couldn't you just actually put in this effort? You just lost a great woman because you were a dumbass. That will be your self-talk. That will be exactly how you talk to yourself. You don't want that to happen to you, do you? And even if the relationship fails, if you put in all the effort and you learn how to actually build a great relationship and then it still fails, well, then you're going to be very well equipped to build a much better relationship with a woman who actually values your effort, with a woman who actually values you putting in all this time, all this effort, and giving her all this love, all this presence, all this cherishment. That's not the right word, but you get the point, cherishing her, right? If, and this is a big if your current relationship even fails when you put in all this effort, because it most likely won't. Now, for lesson number 2, let's go back directly to the doubts that you are having, because most likely you have these doubts and these fears and this uncertainty because, well, you don't know whether your woman and your relationship can give you what you want and what you need. But the only reason why you don't know those things is because you are afraid to look at the truth, whether it is positive or negative. Ignorance is bliss, but the truth will set you free. So, what is your truth? What do you actually want and need from a relationship? What do you actually want and need from the woman that you are with? And even deeper than that, what do you want your life to actually look like? Not the thing where you're like, oh yeah, playing, like downplaying your dreams and everything. Like, what do you actually want it to look like? Have you ever been able to actually admit to yourself how you would want your life to look like? And even deeper, how you would want to authentically show up in the world? Who you authentically want to be? The more clarity you have on these questions, I would advise you to actually write these questions down and reflect on this, journal on this, whatever it might be. But the more clarity you have on these questions, the easier it will be for you to decide whether this relationship and this woman is for you or not. But if you have no clarity on these questions, if you don't know what you want, then you can't figure out whether, well, this is obvious in a way, right? But nobody actually does this, right? You're realizing this now, like, oh yeah, seems kind of obvious. Well, yeah, but you haven't done it, man. You haven't considered these questions. You haven't figured out exactly what you want from a partner. That's why you're so uncertain, so ambiguous. And now you might be thinking, oh, but then she also has to know exactly, precisely what she wants and needs from this relationship and from me, right? Well, to a point, but not fully. Let me explain this because this actually goes deeper than you might think. I'm generalizing here, of course, right? But in general, most men are more at home or feel more at home in their masculine energy, and most women feel more at home in their feminine energy. Of course, all of us can tap into both. All of us can, if we need to, switch between the two, but this is just how it usually is, right? And what that means is, it means that she, if she lives more in her feminine, well, the feminine is very present. She is exactly what she feels in every moment. If she feels a certain emotion, that's what she feels. For a man, that is a bit different, right? We feel something and then we can still go and do whatever it might be, right? We don't switch between emotions that often. We're a bit more linear in that sense, right? And so if you want to be that rock for her that she can hold on to, which then allows her to kind of flow around the rock, right? To be that current that's just flowing around the rock, but never able to actually push that rock out of his place, right? If that's what she wants to do, then you need to know exactly what you want. She, on the other hand, needs to know kind of what she wants. Of course, the more clarity she has on it, the better. But she can never fully know what she wants because she wants different things in every moment versus you probably want the same things in most moments, right? The feminine being sometimes easily swayed, sometimes even chaotic, like even literally chaotic, as in she leaves her stuff everywhere around the house, whatever, right? Even though those things might be true, those things aren't bad. I don't know why I had to think about that so long, but those things aren't bad. They're actually very good things because this is exactly what makes her so attractive to you because she is the opposite of you. She's the complementary opposite, not as in like opposite whatever political opinions or something like that, but opposite as in complementary opposites. You complement each other. Your gifts that you can give to the world, your inherent, whether it's thought patterns, emotions, how you tackle certain things, whatever, just your abilities, your skills, they complement each other. And through that, you can become a very, very good team. So these are very important and also very attractive for most men. And they give most men a kind of fun challenge to actually be that rock for her and to be truly unswayable from their path, for her to for her current to as in giving you an analogy here, right? Her current just going around that rock completely, but never getting you off that spot, never getting you out of who you want to be. Always you stay grounded. And so you need to know exactly what you want. She, in a way, can, but also can't know fully what she wants because for her, it probably changes in every moment. So, by having the courage to leave behind your ignorance and actually stepping into your truth and figuring out your truth more and more, that's what enables you to be that rock for her and to actually build the relationship with her that you truly want. And of course, this is scary because, well, we are all afraid of finding out that our truth doesn't lead to a life with her and that we maybe even need to end this relationship completely, right, and move on to another person. But here's the thing, man. This is not just the only way of finding out whether this relationship is for you or not. It is also the only way of finding, of not just. Sometimes I can't talk, man. It is also, I get passionate about these things, and then I stumble over my words. But sometimes, not sometimes, what am I even saying, bro? Let me take a break here. Okay, here we go. It is also the only way of actually building a thriving relationship ever. Because your woman and any woman is first and foremost with you for your strength, your integrity, and your courage. And sometimes you get off that path, and that's completely okay. A good woman will understand. But you need to get back to that path as soon as possible. So look at that. Look at the truth. Listen to this voice that you have kind of locked in some other room in your brain. Listen to that voice. You know what it is saying. You know the truth. Tap into it. Don't stay blind to it. A great example of a man who did this very, very intensely is one of my clients named Josh, who's from the US. He's 28 or maybe 29 now. I don't know. We worked quite a while ago. But Josh was one of those guys. He worked super hard. He had a physically very demanding job, and one day he got injured at that job, and he couldn't do that job. He ruptured his meniscus, I think, and he couldn't do that job for like a couple of weeks, right? And so basically, what he was doing was sitting at home for a couple of weeks, thinking, reflecting, really going within himself. And he discovered very quickly that what he was doing job wise is never going to fulfill him. This is not what he wanted to do. And now you might be thinking, oh, but what does this has to do? What does this have to do with this relationship? I'll explain that in a second. And by the way, Josh, if you're watching this, man, fucking love you. Shoot me a text. I want to hear an update from you because I haven't heard from you in quite a while. Anyway, what happened in the end was Josh figured out this is not what I want to do. And he took steps that were scary, but he took steps towards actually building the exact kind of purposeful work that he wanted to build. And he needed quite a lot of money for that. So he worked a different job that made much more money. And then he was able to fund this more and more. And the interesting thing is, throughout this time of Josh stepping into that courage, his woman was much more caring, much more loving, much more supportive of him, and much more trusting towards him. He told me this multiple times. Like, she was so much more just kind of releasing all the control and letting him take over, letting him lead in a very trusting, very loving way. And she admired him for his strength, for his courage, for his integrity of actually taking on a different path that was scary for him. And for Josh, it also did a thing that's even bigger. And maybe for the first time in his life, throughout this time, Josh actually started trusting himself and admiring himself, not in an egotistical, prideful way, but in a very loving way. And man, you will not get to that point if you stay ignorant to your truth. There's no way. So look at that. Look at the voice in your head that you've locked in this other room. And now for lesson number 3, I want to take away your fear so that it doesn't sabotage your current or any future relationship that you might be in. This is by far the most important and most valuable lesson that I'll share with you in this video, because I always keep the most valuable insights towards the end of these videos, because I want to keep them for guys like you who actually put in all this time, all this effort to actually work on their relationship, because I personally think that that is a very admirable very admirable thing to do. I just try to be serious here, right? And then I stumble over my words and I have to laugh about myself. You get the point. Anyway, and this is a lesson that I learned from one of my mentors named Ryan. He, by the way, also has a YouTube channel called The Conscious Man. I want to give him a shout out because he has been insanely valuable to me. I've talked with him many, many times. He's become a good friend by now, honestly. And he shares insanely valuable insanely valuable wisdom and insights on his channel about life as a man, essentially, right? Not just relationships, but everything. And yeah, check it out if you're curious. So Ryan, I recently talked with him because because a friendship of mine ended in a quite unpleasant way, to be honest. And I wanted to get some advice from him on this because it was upsetting me. And Ryan told me something that I already knew, which is that some people aren't supposed to stay in our lives forever. I knew that, but I didn't really know it, if you know what I mean. I didn't really understand it. And so he gave me an analogy that I also want to give to you so you can really understand this. Because you might agree with me, yeah, some people are not supposed to stay in our life, but you don't fully understand this. You don't fully, deeply know this. So this analogy that Ryan gave me was the analogy of rocket boosters. If you have a rocket, right, a space shuttle or whatever, a rocket that goes to space, you have these boosters that boost it off the ground and out of the atmosphere. And at some point, these boosters get thrown off because they're dead weight and they're holding the rocket back. And that is the same with relationships, with friendships. Sometimes people just hold us back. And with this friendship that ended, he held me back, I held him back, right? That's what happens sometimes. But our paths had to separate, and that's okay. And maybe the same exact thing happens in your relationship. If it does, here's the thing, man. We are so afraid to look at this, right? We are so afraid to even see this. And that's exactly why we are afraid of a relationship ending, or of a friendship ending, or of a career ending. Because we are so afraid of looking at the truth. But if we would just look at the truth, we would see, if it ends, then it probably ended for a good reason. The truth isn't always positive, man, but it is still the truth. And so whenever you have these fears, you get these thoughts of, being afraid of your relationship ending or of you having to end your relationship, please just remind yourself that if it happens, you will still be fine. It won't kill you. Yes, it will hurt, but maybe it was supposed to happen. Maybe she wasn't supposed to be with you for your entire life. Maybe she was supposed to boost you to a certain point, to help you realize certain things about life and about yourself, and to then go in a different direction. Maybe, maybe not. And that's the thing. That's what most men never understand. It's not black and white. And I'm telling you this not so that you can become passive and end your relationship. I'm telling you this so that you can invest everything, so that you can give it your best shot possible. Don't become passive. Don't become someone who's like, yeah, if it ends, I'll be fine. Like, whatever, right? Um, I had a friend, or I still have a friend, a very, very good friend, actually. His name is Ben. And Ben, if you're watching this, you know what's coming now. But Ben, at the start of this year, he was exactly in that state of just like, everything will work out. I'll just trust in the universe, whatever, and things will work out. And he always told himself that, and nothing worked out. And then he used that mindset. He still kept the same mindset, but he used it to become active, to do something. And within a couple months, bro, the guy went from 0 to 10K a month in his business. And bro, this guy is insane. It's crazy the stuff that he's done this year. It's truly, truly insane. And he is in such a better place with himself, externally, internally, everything. It's crazy. Simply because he didn't just use that mindset, that trust, to become passive or to whatever, not do anything, but he used it to give it his best shot possible. And if you give something your best shot possible, you can't fail. Because either you win or you fail, but you've learned so much that you win in the next thing. Same with relationships. I want to give you one more example here to really drive this point home. David Deida, the man that so many men who have read his book, The Way of the Superior Man, or have read other books of him, the man that so many men look up to, right? That I quite frankly look up to and have learned a lot from. He wrote in one of his books, the book is called Wild Nights, he wrote about how him and his partner of, I don't recall all the details because I read this book quite a while ago, but I think his partner of over 10 years, how and why they split up. And it was this thing where they had a beautiful relationship together and they had everything that they wanted in a way, right? And they loved each other and they had a thriving relationship. But they both got to a point where they realized, hey, we're not able to help each other grow anymore. We're not able to boost each other anymore. What are we going to do about this? And they both decided, hey, we're not here to have stability and safety and whatever. We're here, these flies, man, we're here for truth. We're here on a continual search for truth. And of course, this is a very high standard, right? You don't have to do the same thing, but in my opinion, you should. Because the truth will set you free. And ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is only surface level bliss. Deep down, you still know, hey, I'm being ignorant here. Anyway, well, they eventually split up, right? They eventually moved on from each other and moved on to other people who could again help them grow because they simply realized, hey, we're not able to help each other grow anymore. And the ancient Greeks actually had a very similar mindset when it comes to love and relationships, where they simply said, hey, your partner is your teacher and your student, and you are their teacher and their student. You learn from each other. And you have the humility to be someone, to be their student, and you have the courage to be their teacher, both ways. And of course, to even look at the possibility of your relationship potentially ending is fucking scary, especially if you want to have children in the future, or you already have children and you don't want them to grow up without one parent being present, or want them to simply grow up seeing a healthy relationship of their parents, because you know how fundamental that is for your children to then create a healthy relationship for themselves in the future. But again, I'm not saying that your relationship should end or has to end or will end. I'm telling you this because once you realize that this fear isn't real, it will enable you to show up with so much more love, so much more integrity, so much more courage, and so much more presence in your relationship that you can actually build a thriving relationship where there are no doubts. I want to leave you with this one line from my mentor Ryan, because he doesn't just run his YouTube channel, he is also an artist, a musician, and that was actually his career before he started this whole YouTube thing. And he recently went into that again and wrote this beautiful song that He might or might not release. I hope he does, but we'll have to see. These flies, man. But anyway, in that song, first line of that song is this: I have mistaken the fear for the truth. Brother, the fear is not the truth. Please understand that. And again, if you are interested in working with me personally to build the exact relationship that you actually want to build, then you can hit the link in the description and watch the explainer video on that page where I explain exactly how I can help you. And if you want, you can also hit that big orange button on that page and apply for working with me. The application takes like 1 minute, and then I'll read your application. And if I think, hey, this is someone I would like to work with, I will reach out to you and we'll set up a free call to get to know each other and to basically give you the opportunity to decide whether this is for you or not. So if that sounds interesting, check it out. This is not some bullshit $300 course. You know me. This is deep, powerful mentorship. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check it out right now. Link in description. I'll talk to you very soon, man. Have a great day.